What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today's reaction video is life better in the USA or Europe? An honest review.
This should be interesting because I imagine there's pros and cons to both.
Pros and cons to both, and this surely is just complete personal opinion.
Yeah, because what's good for him in the Europe might not be good for everybody.
Definitely not. I mean, I don't. This guy's quite a lot of subscribers. I think it's quite a big deal. Unfortunately, I just don't know who he is. So I don't know his story. I don't know if he's lived in Europe for some time. He's probably going to tell us. I don't know if he's lived. I'm guessing he's American and he's comparing.
Yeah, he's comparing.
Would be my guess. But sometimes when you go up somewhere, you either have like a really, I love this place, or you kind of have this, I need to get out of this place, and everything else is better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I feel like we've got to take this with a pinch of salt, listen to all the information provided, and unless you experience it for yourself, you can't honestly say for yourself what's better.
Yeah, I think we've got to take this as a review.
Has his opinion. Definitely, and it's going to be interesting to see how he sees it. We'll try and clear up any Europe ones if he talks about the UK. If he talks about other countries, we can't.
Depends where he lives in Europe.
Definitely.
It's a big place.
Yeah, exactly. Same with the USA as well. Not all you guys will know. If he talks about potentially Maine the entire time, you don't know. Or if he talks about Texas,
exactly,
someone in Maine won't know.
If he's only ever lived in Florida, then life in California could be so much different.
Exactly.
It probably is.
It's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be a good, interesting, fun video, which we can all learn from, hopefully. And then it's all our personal opinion at the end of the day. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Smash the like button, guys. Smash the subscribe button. We'd really appreciate it. Is life better in the USA or Europe? What we got? Let's go.
It turns out humans are not the same everywhere. Who you are is at least partially influenced by where you are. Your environment literally has an impact on you. And if you don't believe me, studies show this. And this is a dynamic that's influencing all of us, including me, as I've moved from one continent to another. The tug of war between the US and Europe is just so intriguing to me. It just feels like this endless battle between the new and the old world in the West. There's no right and wrong, obviously, when it comes to a discussion like this of cultural comparison. There's just trade-offs. It turns out that you can't have it all. I think the human race really benefits as a species from our differences. Plus, it's really fun to articulate the things that I'm seeing take place in the world. And so that's the inspiration behind this piece, comparing the life that I've lived for 19 years in the US, the one that I've lived for 5 years here in Europe.
So
and how my view of things continues to evolve. Now, national stereotypes are nothing new, right? One of the easiest ones to point to is the idea that there's more introversion in Asia, for example. Generally speaking, massive generalization, and more extroversion in other places, like Brazil. There are exceptions to all generalizations, right? But there's also a grain of truth. You know, the jokes that we make about these sorts of things wouldn't be funny if they were completely inaccurate. If I were to say, oh, the US is a quiet country that is very respectful to all other nations and doesn't make a lot of noise, I lose all credibility, right? You just don't believe me because there's not really a lot of truth to that. Now, while I've already made a few pieces exploring cultural comparisons between different parts of the world, different countries and different regions, I want to dig a little bit deeper this time. Beyond superficial comparisons like, oh,
Europeans use air conditioning a lot less than Americans.
Yes, produce is...
I mean, we found on our channel that is a bit bog standard one, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Which again, it's a fair one, but is that going to decide which you prefer? I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
You can't. I don't think you can make your decision on one as AC because you could install AC wherever you go if you really like it. This seems like a very well done video.
Good intro so far.
Good intro. It seems like it's professionally done. I feel like this 70 minutes is going to fly by.
Yeah.
So if we get lost and we don't say anything, it's because we're just like engrossed. We'll try. We'll try and react.
Higher quality in Europe than in the United States because the governments subsidize that sort of thing because people care about it a lot more. And yes, technology is a lot more affordable in the United States, partially because of taxation on imports, but also because as a society, there's more of an orientation towards innovation. And one of the ways that keeping up with the Joneses manifests itself in the US is having the latest shiny thing. But I want to dig deeper into the character of these two continents and the trends that I'm noticing in people that live in these two continents.
Oh my God, there's no lanes. There are no lanes.
Fair warning, these are just my opinions. I am just sharing my observations that I see in the world and within myself.
He's made it very clear.
So take it or leave it.
And he has been honest.
If you disagree with something that I say, please feel free to share it in the comments. This is supposed to be fun. I find this sort of thing fun.
It literally repeated what we said in the intro.
For every point I'm going to make here, I'm going to really try, despite my biases, yes, I chose to live in Europe, explore the positives and negatives here, because I think there are positives and negatives on both sides.
Yeah.
Americans are known for their patriotism, literally thinking to themselves,
I
we are
love
the
it.
best. And that's definitely not everyone, but enough people do think that it's a real thing. This really cracks me up because, that's got to be one of the fastest ways that I can think of to tick someone off. Like,
I like
who
it.
likes
I
the
love
guy
it.
who shows up at the party and won't stop talking about how they're the best? As I'm sure you can tell, this really annoyed me quite a bit, having grown up in the US but with immigrant parents. But a lot of Americans really believe this. And what doesn't help matters is the reality that a lot of people can point to the fact that the US is a world superpower. And look, there are a lot of really proud Europeans
The
too.
thing is,
and
I feel
maybe
like there's a difference in patriotism to just saying we're the best.
I think being proud of your country is
Yeah.
different to thinking that you're the best country.
Yeah,
And I don't get that vibe of America.
I kind of see it as you thinking you're the best because, like, oh my god, I love my country. It is the best country. But I don't think it's a case of going to no, your country's awful, mine's way better.
Yeah, no, I don't get that vibe either.
I don't get it. I think it's just a love of a country.
Like, I'm not being funny, when we singing like, the football, when we're ripping England, we sure do not think that England is the be all and end all.
Definitely.
But you're
It's just
supporting
the
your
passion.
country,
Definitely. It literally
you got to
is
be proud of where you come from.
It's a great example, and to be fair, I think the English do get a bit of a rap, which maybe it is some, about being arrogant and you think you're the best and stuff like that.
Honestly,
But it's just passion.
I tell you now, England is not the best country in the world.
Definitely not.
But it's a country that
We
we are
absolutely love.
from, so we,
Passionate about it.
yeah, you got to be proud of where you're from.
Definitely, and I do love that about the US, your history, you absolutely love it as well. Raise your flag, because there's a lot of good meaning behind that
Yeah.
as well. The national anthem sung, awesome as well. So yeah, I don't see it as a boasting thing, I kind of see it as I just love it, it's awesome,
Trust
innit?
me, Italy looks way better than England.
secretly they think they're the best. Okay, but it is a little bit harder to make the argument that you're the top dog right now if you're Greek or Italian, when in reality your moment to shine came centuries ago. For the
long time
record,
ago.
I don't think there's a best country. I don't think in those terms. I think different countries are good at different things. And I don't feel like quantitative measurements like GDP say anything about the quality of a country. Now, the reason I bring all of this up is because of a weird feeling that I get when I return to the US. It's this feeling that I'm in the center of the universe. And obviously I know that's not the case, but the relationship between the US and Europe doesn't work the same way both ways. Here in Europe, there's a steady stream of news coming from the US.
Yeah.
But when I'm over there, it feels like there isn't much talk about what's going on in the rest of the world unless something really big happens, like
It's 'cause
a
there's
war.
so much
Most
going on.
mainstream media barely covers what's going on internationally. And unless you're a worldly American, and there definitely are some of those out there, you don't have very much of an idea of what's going on out there. In many ways, the US does feel geographically isolated. And maybe
Okay.
that's because the distance between Los Angeles and Las Vegas is bigger than the distance between Paris and London. It does feel like Europe is closer to a lot of the rest of the world. And because the distance is smaller, you can't pretend.
The problem is with that is, for me, I feel like we're forgetting America as a country, Europe is a lot of countries.
No, I don't think it's that.
I just
No.
feel like if we split America into states as the countries, then America would be close to a lot of places in the world.
Oh, definitely. I with the news thing, I was generally just thinking about it. We honestly get no news about Paris. We get no news about probably anywhere else in Europe unless it's a big thing. So what he's explaining about all the other countries, we don't get. We only get. I think it's just America's influence.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. It literally is just America's influence. It's that big. We get a lot of news coming from America. All the tech places are from America. We get so much, but we don't. Like he says in America, they don't get anywhere else's. England's influence over America is it's not big at all. Do you know what I mean? France's influence over England, although we're closer than we're USA, we get way more news about the USA than we do France. Way more news about the USA than we do Spain. I don't think it's a case of because they're isolated from us. I just think the influence is massive. And that's why we get so much news about it.
Yeah.
Because England's smaller, not as much goes on, and you got this massive influence, you got massive superpower, and all this information from 50 states is just there for us.
Yeah, I get
Do you get me?
Yeah, I do get it.
And then for you guys in England, it's only a tiny thing unless something big happens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like saying us with France, tiny thing until something big happens.
Yeah.
So I think it's just the influence.
I get it.
Yeah?
That there aren't neighbors all around you. France cannot pretend Germany isn't like right there. I personally believe this is a major factor in how we ended up with the stereotype that Americans are terrible at geography, world geography. Maybe
Okay.
also the stereotype that a lot of Americans are uncultured. And speaking of that,
That's
culture is a
not true,
confusing
though.
word. There's something extremely interesting to me about the whole conversation about culture.
Okay.
According to a lot of Europeans, the U.S. is a place that lacks culture. But that doesn't
Which
make
isn't
a lot
true.
of sense
That's
because
not
the
true.
U.S. is actually one of, if not the biggest exporters of culture in the whole world. That's one of those things that really shocked me when I moved abroad. Everyone is exposed to the aforementioned American media and therefore American politics and current events. American music is everywhere. It's ubiquitous. Honestly, you could say I'm an export of the United States, and I'm not sure I could argue with that. The U.S. is like always the loudest kid in the room.
That's
And
where we
even
get all the
just
news
cities
from.
like
Yeah.
New York
That's
are
the
an
reason.
explosion of art, and it's one city in
It's
a
not a
giant
bad thing.
country. So
No, not
what
at
are
all.
we saying here really? What are Europeans referring to? I don't think these big mainstream exports are what Europeans are referring to. I think they're talking about what you do on a day-to-day basis and how much that can change from region to region. I'm talking about the customs and traditions that have been passed down for generations, the different regional dishes that come from centuries ago. I'm talking about the superstitions or the different card games or the celebrations that take place that commemorate something that happened before modern day France or Austria or Italy even existed. Bizarre linguistic quirks, beyond the fact that there's a different language every direction you look. Architecture that changes every few hundred kilometers
A lot of
or
architecture.
miles. Am I suggesting that the US does not have customs and traditions? No, it does. I think about Thanksgiving and Halloween and hot dogs and baseball, the
dogs.
Super Bowl. There are a lot of things. It's a big country. But one thing all of these things have in common is that they stretch across the entire expanse of the country. The US, for better or for worse, is associated with uniformity and scale. Maybe that's just a facet of being such a young country. For better or for worse, Europeans see the KFCs and the Starbucks that are dotted across all of their major cities, and they see that as the mark of the US and how it operates. Now, a lot of Americans know this, and some even criticize this, right? But it's still happening. I just personally have a sinking feeling when I see the same exact strip mall in any state that I might go. And it does feel like the only way I can see the same thing in Hungary and Spain is if I go to a major chain, a lot of which are American.
Okay, yeah, I see.
Yeah.
Maybe this is because of size, you know? A 4-hour train ride can take you to any one of like 7 countries in Europe, and you're lucky if a 4
I mean, yeah, that is mad. The amount, like, I mean, I haven't spent too much time traveling in Europe, but the amount of trains you can just get between different countries is mad.
Yeah.
And even you can get a train between England and France.
But I think America's kind of known not great for its public transport.
Oh,
So
no.
that kind of like,
That's a difference as well, isn't it?
yeah.
This is our opinion. This is what we think. I guess what you say, whatever you think as well. We may be completely wrong. I think on the culture thing, like, I think all this stuff, we got Hollywood, you got celebrities, you got all the music. That's the stuff which gets fed to us on a day-to-day basis. That is all the stuff that gets fed to us. That is your perception of American as a European. Fast food chains in there as well. Major clothes brands and stuff like that as well. None of the little quirks, none of the other stuff gets fed to you at all, unless you look at it.
Mainly the news is about celebrities, singers, movies in Hollywood.
Definitely. So you've got all this information being thrown at you. And I mean, from most Europeans, everyone's busy at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You just accept that information, you don't look at it, and it's a simple, oh yeah, the Americans are overweight, they're like the
It's almost
celebrities,
like
and there's no
believe what you
culture.
read.
Believe what you read, yeah,
Like,
definitely.
Because if you haven't experienced America or you don't know enough about America, why would you not believe it?
Exactly. I don't think it's a case of people saying it's not cultured. It's just they only know one side of it, and they just haven't either had the time or they just can't be bothered because not everybody cares. At the end of the day, not everybody cares. They might not want to look. I mean, I'm trying to think. We've done all these videos and we've learned so much and realised how culture. I'd had no clue. It's one of the biggest languages is Spanish. It makes sense being next to Mexico, but I would have had zero clue. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because we don't get that. That is not something that we get passed on. That's not something that's portrayed in the TV shows
news
that
or
we
anything.
watch. It's not. It's not given to us.
Definitely. So I'd have never guessed that. But obviously we do these videos and we realise how cultured it is. So I don't think it's a case of everyone just be like, nah, it's not a cultured country. I just think it's lack of knowledge.
I think so. And so I think that's the American part. That's
That's not the
That's
American
on
problem.
that's on European part. That's on the newspapers.
I guess it's just the way of the world, isn't
Unfortunately,
it?
it's just that is what happens.
Yeah, you don't see the little pizzerias you guys will have over there, like Joe's Pizza in New York City. That's just the first. I know it's random, but it's the first one what pops in my head. But it's
No,
been
but
going
we
a long
can
time.
relate to that because going to New York was nothing like what friends showed us New York was.
Completely different.
So like
Completely.
that, and that's another thing, is what you're shown is not.
Always how it is. I mean, we loved it. I mean, there's some beautiful architecture there as well.
It was more than what we thought we were going to get.
Definitely.
Because of what we we were expecting to eat at fast foods every day. We didn't know there were so many different
little
ins
family,
and outs of little
a
restaurants.
family
and things.
chain which you'd get in Italy or something like
Yeah.
that. You have them in the middle of New York, and they're American or sometimes they're all Italian or whatever. And there just is so much culture there, which is just not accessible if you're not looking for it, I guess. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and if you're not bothered that much to look for it, then you just kind of accept what you're given. Like if it pops up on your newsfeed
Yeah.
and you just see it, you think, oh, okay,
Yeah,
fine.
sound. That's the
But
Americans
if you're
again,
not,
you know what I
if
mean?
you're not interested in going to Google it or
Whatever.
look into it, then
That's your perception. It then gets stuck in your head, and if someone talks you by, you go, oh yeah, they like fast food. You know what I mean?
like when I was growing up, definitely just thought America was mainly consisted of California, New York,
Yeah, celebrities.
rich, famous, powerful.
I mean, I never thought about it, but that's probably what I would have thought if I did.
I feel like I always just think everyone from America was famous.
Yeah. So I think it's just like a knowledge.
Which is naive, but that is what 10-year-old me got given.
4-hour flight will take you outside of the US. And I think a lot of Europeans take pride in this cultural richness, the density of different things going on, you know, being able to go to a different place so easily and not understand a word. One major difference for me between the Europe and US is the language element. And I know I
Okay.
care about this more than most people, but I do think it has an impact on your experience of each place. And it's one of the main reasons why I moved to Europe. Yes, you have all kinds of language diversity in places like Miami and New York, which is
Yeah.
really cool. But overall, English will do the job in the US. That's really not the case in Europe. Yes, English is the most international language, but still to this day, not being able to speak French when you're in France means you are not having the full French experience.
It's a bit of
That's
hassle
just
not
how it
being
is.
able to.
And honestly, I love living in a world where there are many different languages and many different ways to say things, and that
Okay.
we don't all necessarily understand each other. For me, it's very stimulating seeing or hearing the different sounds and different ways that people can communicate with each other. It adds a lot of color to the world. Yes, I speak Spanish, but if I go to Barcelona or spend time in Catalonia, I, don't understand Catalan. I speak Italian, but Southern Italians are difficult for me to understand, partially because of the accent, partially because of the dialects. It's just awesome richness that I appreciate so much. And kind of counterintuitively, it is precisely because there is that barrier there, that it's difficult to learn a language, that it's difficult to decode how people are communicating, that when you do unlock that door, it's like that much more incredible.
Like a
That
sense
is
of
what
achievement,
makes
I guess.
language is so amazing to me. They're world expanding tools. I fell in love with France and with Europe when I did my exchange in France because I was forced to learn the language. I just had to. It's like learning how to think in a new way. There's something so exciting about that to me. Without that, I would have never immersed myself in France. I would have never created the life that I have now. Speaking the language is often the difference between having a superficial tourist experience and delving deeper into the culture. I like to think of it as overcoming the moat around a castle so that you can actually storm the castle itself. Who doesn't want to see what's inside that castle, you know what I mean? Now,
makes
Lingoda is the
sense.
sponsor of this video.
Okay, it's me,
They
and it's perfect for a sponsor as well. And by the way, this guy seems like an absolute
Yeah, he
genius
does.
and an awesome guy. I wish I could do that because I love the idea of being able to learn a language. Mainly from a respect point of view. If I go to a country, I try my best. I'm not very good.
I think the problem is as well though, if you don't know the language that everyone's speaking in, you're almost missing out on what like
Not gossip.
no, not gossip, but you're missing out on
It's their culture, isn't it?
you're missing out on like the French experience.
Oh, 100%. And like I say, I do try my best when we go everywhere to try and speak it. I'm not very good, and I wish I honestly had the patience. And it's more on me why I don't have the patience. And one day I will learn languages.
Do you know, it is very hard to learn languages as an adult.
Yeah, oh, definitely. But I want to do it. One day, I want to do it. Maybe I'll check this out. We'll skip the ad on this video. But if you want to check a language out, the link to this video is in the description. And it's quite a good one.
You're going to need it.
I'm going to need it.
Speed of life. One of the things that really struck me the last time I went back to the US is the speed of things.
Rapid.
And the fact that
Go,
there are
isn't
less
it?
guardrails, less people and things that are going to slow you down or get in your way. And because of that, many people go very fast in the US.
I love them little things.
It's perfectly socially acceptable to wolf down a sandwich in 3 minutes and get right back to work. I'm not saying that's what always happens. I'm just saying that it's okay. People are not going to judge you. It's like an acceptable thing to do. And people will walk down the street eating, or they'll eat in their car. And in Europe, you're never going to see those sorts of things. Or if you do, it's like an extremely rare. I don't know. I can't remember ever seeing it personally. These things are not okay. They're looked down upon in exactly the same way
I don't actually know when the last time I saw a person eating like a sandwich or something in the street.
Like
in
rushing.
town. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I don't see that often. I have done it before. Like, but that's if I've got an appointment or something and I've left it till last minute. I've had to goff it down. But yeah,
it's not a common thing.
It's more relaxed, isn't it? Europe is definitely more relaxed.
Yeah, definitely.
Smoking is looked down upon in the US, which goes to show you human beings are willing to draw different lines in the sand. Europeans will tell you it's not healthy, right, to eat that fast, it's rushed, but it goes beyond that. It feels almost morally wrong. I think that's a good spot to pause and introduce a new concept.
Okay.
I have this running theory that there are two forces at play in shaping culture. The first is peer pressure. There's always a certain kind of pressure that exists, enforced by the people around you on how things should be, how you should operate. And the other idea is normalization. It's seeing a certain kind of behavior that's very widespread around you to the point where you get desensitized to it and you find it normal. So let's talk about some examples of this. I want to talk about work here for a second, which feels very related to the speed of things in my mind. The US is a super competitive society. There's a lot of peer pressure to work harder and longer, and if you don't, somebody will be there to replace you. No guardrails, no off switch, so it leads to a more imbalanced way of living.
Less holidays.
This leads to a
and
dynamic where there's very little vacation time, and not just that, people don't take that vacation time. You're lucky to get even a couple of weeks, but it's been normalized to not even necessarily take that time. That becomes a sort of like self-perpetuating cycle. It does feel like there's a fear of stopping. So there's the peer pressure and the normalization of work that's taking place in the US. And the same is at work in Europe, but just in a very different way. In Europe, I feel a sort of peer pressure to not work at certain times, like on Sunday, because it's seen as insane and unhealthy.
Family day.
And because Europeans...
Even if you work at a company which you kind of think want you to work or something like that, they're still kind of obliged to make you take your holiday, but like, they still push you to take your holiday. They're still like, you need to take your holiday because we can't let you take it all at the end of the year, and we have to give you that holiday. So it's a push to that as well, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Treasure their vacation time and really stick to it. It has a normalizing effect. I don't look at time off in the same way I used to. I'm coming to realize it's good to unplug, to recharge,
definitely.
You know, to not have everything revolve around work. So there's pros and cons to both sides here, because I think the US is a really incredible place for the ambitious if you want to advance your career. And that feeling of ambition all around you can be infectious. I felt it as like a fresh wave of energy. The only thing is, it doesn't feel conducive to a healthy rhythm over the long term. And the thing about grocery shopping, you know, I was seeing a lot of people order on Instacart or Uber Eats or whatever, and it's not like those things don't exist in Europe, but there's like an emphasis on efficiency in the US. Here in Europe, a lot of people will shop for groceries on a very regular basis, almost daily or every other day, for fresh produce, and they'll buy in season. There's nothing really efficient about that, but it is healthier and tastier. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit more about acceptable behavior, because it's related to this point I made about peer pressure and normalization. There are clearly different ideas about work, but also just what is acceptable behavior in general. I find that there's a lot more of an anything goes kind of attitude in the US than in Europe. Growing up, each year there would be a pajama day, which was this really fun day where you go to school in your pajamas.
We do that.
11,
yeah, we do that in England.
12 years old. And I'm not sure what happened. Maybe this has always been the case and I didn't realize it, but it really struck me that I will see adults, full-grown adults, walking around in pajamas in the US. I saw it when I was there just a few weeks ago.
I don't know, the more I watch this video, the more I kind of think, right, you've got the USA, which is completely different to Europe. You've got Europe, which is obviously completely different to the USA. I mean, you've kind of got England in this middle ground.
Both.
You kind of got, it takes a lot of the laziness, like pyjamas and weird stuff from the US and stuff like that, but then it also takes the relaxed holidays, carefree kind of thing from Europe.
I feel like we've got,
it's like a mixture.
I feel like England, right, is like I feel like it's, half the old ways of Europe, and it's also trying to also keep up with America.
Yeah.
It's like
It's a weird
we're
mess
like
between.
a bit behind Europe, but no, we're a bit
Ahead of
of
Europe.
Europe, bit behind America. We're just a
Yeah.
bit. We're not sure. We're just kind of copying both.
Yeah, I think
We've
that's.
not established our own.
We might just be picking what we like. We're like, oh,
I mean, it works well for us because we're getting the best. We're getting.
the best
all
of
the
both.
best.
Like, oh, we like them holidays. Bring them down here.
Hang on a minute, because we also like pajama days.
Yeah,
so
we like
bring them
pajama
too.
day. Bring it here. We want to relax.
I have never seen that in Europe. And in fact, it's funny, the opposite's taking place here in Paris, where women in my life in particular will come and visit, and they feel they cannot go out without dressing well because
That's not
Paris is
England.
such a capital of
Yeah, I can't imagine the
fashion
French
and
going in
looking good, I
pajamas.
guess.
I can't
do
imagine it.
draw a link. I don't know how related they are, but in my mind they're connected between this casualness and the American dream. You're
I don't go out in pajamas to the shops.
No, not to the shops though. Not to
It's
the
only if
shops.
it's a scheduled school event. Just to clarify.
allowed to dream about things that feel ridiculous or impossible. And maybe that contributes to the startup culture that exists in the US, the entrepreneurial spirit, and of course, I should say there's nuance there. There are differences between the coasts of the United States and the middle of the country. There are differences across the different countries in Europe on
Yeah.
this particular issue and all issues. But still, I feel a different vibe when I'm here in Europe. And I have found that this has had a positive effect in my life. This is one thing I'm really grateful for from my time in the US. It's this mindset of like
ambitious.
going
Yep.
for it, taking risks, and figuring out a lot of the rest later on. Look, I'm aware that there's a lot of psychoanalyzing going on here. And maybe the way that I see the world says a lot more about me than the world. I'm open to that possibility. But what I love about making these cultural comparisons is the fact that it's always a reminder that there's more than one way to live life. I think
Definitely.
a lot of life is shaped by our values and the things that we choose to stand by. And a lot of it is based off of what resonates, what feels right. If you have the privilege to travel or to move to another place, it can be a world-expanding experience. But even if you
Scary
can't do
as
that,
well.
being aware of the biases inherent in living in a particular place, because there are always biases, can lead to a richer, more well-rounded experience of life, I think. Life is full of trade-offs, but I do believe in the power of picking and choosing what works for you.
Definitely.
Deciding what your trade-offs are to the
Yeah.
extent that you can. I really try my hardest to embody the best of all the places that I've ever lived in. It's just fun, I guess, to see how different groups of humans operate. And I think we can better appreciate the world with contrast. Anyway, I hope this gave you some food for thought. Thanks for watching.
That was a great video.
That's a great video. What a nice way to end it off as well.
Yeah.
That was good. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I mean, it was a super long one, but I don't care.
I think it's all about experiences, isn't it?
All about experience. It's all about personal opinion as well. And why not go into every experience with an open mind and not shut it down straight away? Like you said, everyone's going to have their own biases, but why not try and enjoy it and then come up with like a good conclusion at the
positive.
end? Definitely.
Positive.
Enjoy that?
It was really good.
It was
Yeah.
really good. Let us know if he's got any more videos you want us to check out, because if they're all as good as that, then sign me in, because I will hooked then. Smash that button, guys. Smash the subscribe button and watch the video.
Have a fantastic day.
And we will see you legends in the next one. Peace.